Hi, this is James, and let's talk about gardening for just a few moments. And I want to introduce you to borage with two R's, B-O-R-R-A-G-E. It's very easy to grow. Once you get it started, it keeps coming back and it grows in random places. And what you do is you pick these little groups of flowers, and then you just chomp it right where my finger is. See? It's a little prickly, but it's got moisture in it and texture. And after you chew it just a minute, it has all the chewing satisfaction of bread. And you can grow enormous quantities of this by just letting it grow. It's the perfect weed because it's so easy to yank out. And it doesn't need watering for some, it doesn't apparently. So I think that we should encourage cities to plant plants like this, edible plants. 6 months of the year, this is an enormous food source. And borage is among those few plants that contain omega-6 fatty acids and a little bit of omega-3, I do believe. But it's extremely healthy. Now, you don't eat the leaves. They're a little bit toxic. I mean, if you eat some, it's okay, but you wouldn't want to make a dinner out of, a regular dinner out of the leaves of the borage plant. Besides, there's so many of the flowers. And I have not figured out a way to cook these that really I find appetizing, or a way to freeze them or store them or dry them. When you dry them, they get all hard. So fresh in a salad, I think that's the best way to eat these. Now I would put in a commercial message at this point. If you know anybody who's buying or selling, then I want them to know that I'm a real estate broker and a real estate attorney. And if you have a real estate agent that you like, and he tells you that you probably are going to need an attorney to back him up with the documentation, well, bring me in. I can quote a flat fee payable at closing. And I'll function as both a broker and a lawyer. But I prefer to work with other brokers as a co-broker. So if you go to WashingtonAttorneyBroker.com/helping brokers, helping-brokers, that'll explain it. And the more you help me with referrals like that, the more I can afford to spend on the public good. And let's say that lightning struck and I got so lucky as to get elected to the U.S. Senate instead of good old Maria Cantwell. I would put a lot of my time into educating the public and children about how to grow food and be healthy. Now everybody talks about, is it Obamacare? Are you for it or are you against it? Well, I guess Obamacare is better than nothing, especially if you cover pre-existing conditions. That's got to be something that's included. But the insurance companies don't even want it. I mean, who is it that's opposed to Obamacare? But Obamacare is defective because Obamacare fully funds all these drugs, more drugs than people need. It doesn't fund naturopathic medicine, which can be used to cure disease, not just address the symptoms. It doesn't support Ayurvedic medicine or chiropractic. And it doesn't cover dentistry. Basic dentistry is very important to the health of the nation. And we do need Medicare for all. And part of Medicare for all should be to reduce the number of drugs people take by making them healthy so they don't need to take drugs. I'm 71 and I don't take any drugs. Most people my age are taking drugs to lower their blood pressure or lower their cholesterol. And my blood pressure is fine and my cholesterol is fine, and I eat nothing but vegetables all the time because vegetables strengthen you. And my message on that point, people say, well, James, you're a vegan. Are you going to try to pass laws that make it illegal to eat meat. I think some things can't be made illegal, and I think people have certain customary rights. However, I think that the meat eaten should be that grown wild on a buffalo commons, a wolf commons, puma commons, that interconnects all the Indian lands and all the national parks and all the national monuments. And so the animals can roam through this area, because the animals need to migrate. We could have huge herds of buffalo again, and tourists would come from around the world to see our buffalo. There's a verse out of my campaign theme song. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Hey, cattle rancher, take your beeves off the public land. Give the buffalo and the wolf a place to roam. Profits must be goal number 2, after doing something good for the world. I was pondering this question, what are we going to do about corporations? Because capitalism is a mighty force and a useful force and a good force, and I am a strong believer in private enterprise, but I want it to be ethical. We've got to figure out a way to help capitalism rein itself in or to rein it in. And one of my ideas is to redefine what corporations are. States incorporate corporations, say that this rule shall be followed. Profits shall be goal number 2, after doing something good for the world. So, the first purpose of any and every corporation above a certain size is to do something good for the world. Now, it can also make profits, but making profits is secondary to doing something good for the world. Now, it's my contention that doing something good for the world can actually be good for profits. And it's my case because my for-profit work subsidizes my campaigning and my teaching people about all the many profitable frauds that are being imposed on them. Now these are, since this is primarily a gardening video, let's focus more on the garden. These are clones of a mother grape called Müller-Thurgenau. They're excellent grape for this climate, and they're sweet, and they don't have seeds, and they're delicious. They're not subject to white powdery mildew at all. And the other variety is right over here. This is the McCampbell. And the third one is Concord. In other videos, I've showed you how to mount grapes on a fence before, but you can look way down yonder and you can see that shelf bracket there, right there. Run berry wire through there, and it holds the grapes up high enough that they can get the sun. And so every fence becomes a grape arbor. Now, I don't make wine, but the grapes I can't eat, I bag them in Ziploc bags and freeze them. Spread them out, freeze them. And sometimes I rinse them off and sometimes I don't. I don't see the necessity. But I have had problems with white powdery mildew on my grapes. And this year's been different because I've been watering the grapes. You can see they're growing like crazy. Putting out lots of runners. And you just cut those off. And cut them off, don't let them go over the fence unless you have control of the other side. And the distance between the grapes, see, this has been in the ground maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years that we've lived in this house. You can see how big these are. But they should be Those are about, that's about 10 feet. They should be about every 5 feet. That's the way the vineyards do it in eastern Washington. These are curly kale. And when you get this much, there's only one thing to do, and that is to get huge garbage bag, a clean one of course, and whack them and take them to the food bank. Along with, I always deliver some suggested recipes because most people don't know how to cook vegetables. And the key to cooking vegetables is you steam them. It makes them soft. And then you add salad dressing of any kind, or flax oil, or hemp oil, or olive oil, lemon juice, tahini, and they taste so good. Now you can see that let me back out. Tomatoes are really starting to produce. We started early in the garage under grow lights. So we've got a lot of those, and then the beans over here, and then the peas. I'm surprised. See, we got lots of staking here up real high. And so I think they'll just keep on growing if they have something to grow on. If they don't have something to grow on, they just dry up and die. So that's the end of my message. Be healthy by eating more vegetables. I know people are customarily addicted to meat, but it should be your dessert. And quit eating milk. Cow's milk is not good for humans because it contains IGF-1, the same growth hormone that's in your body, and you don't need excess growth hormone. It's cancer promoter. And it has no essential fatty acids in it. And how is that possible? That's because calves eat grass. And grass does contain essential fatty acids, so it's not found in cow's milk. But essential fatty acids are found in mother's milk. And pasteurization doesn't get milk clean enough. Many reasons to avoid milk. Now, cheese might be another question. It just has such a wonderful taste. But I just don't agree with an industry where calves, after a few days, are ripped away from their mothers. The mother agonizes, and the calf agonizes, and sometimes the calf is then fed FDA surplus milk, which is really strange. It goes in a circle. So that the milk guy can steal the milk from the cow that would have gone to the calf. So I don't like the business. And if people had a cow per acre, yes, milk would cost more, cheese would cost more, but it would be harmless food. And we should eat harmless food. Oh, and that is arugula. See those arugula flowers? And we just keep nipping off those flowers, putting them in the salad. I find the taste a little bit strange, but I'm getting used to it because I just feel that these flowers are so nutritious and they grow in great profusion. So mass quantities of food. And I should develop an agreement to be used by apartment dwellers and their landlords to facilitate founding of apartment gardens and condo gardens. And some of them don't have enough ground or area, but there is a place where there's a lot of unused ground, and that's typically at schools and churches. And I would propose that we encourage people to set up community church school gardens. And that's a cause that I will champion. And what you're seeing right here is the fig trees that I cloned. What I did was where they grow up at the root of the tree, I took a saw and cut them off from the root in the ground during the winter when the plants were asleep. And then I just stuck them in the ground with some root tone. So now I've got about 6 more fig trees. I don't know if these are grafted or non-grafted. If they're non-grafted, I'd like to see what the characteristics of the root stock is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, some trees are all of one species. The root and the part above ground are all the same. But with others, especially with European grapes, the rootstock is one species and the plant on the top is a different but similar species. And so that's done because rootstock sometimes can suffer from root rot. And so you do this grafting. So I don't know whether these figs are grafted and exactly what I'm going to get, but I'm going to give them away maybe as presents. And that's Brussels sprouts right there, you can see. And this right here is a silverberry. And I advise you to get one of those. The technical name is Elaeagnus multiflora. It makes football-shaped red berries that in great quantities grows as a bush. I'm trying to make this one grow tall, and that's why I've pruned it so severely. And they're sweet and sour. It's like Chinese food, sweet and sour at the same time. Yummy, yummy in the tummy. They're like raisins. If they get dry, if they dry up, they're kind of chewy like a raisin, or like a goji berry. And speaking of goji berries, right there, we have about 8 of them. So what I did in the fall when this goji berry plant was asleep is I gave it a firm whacking because it got really tall with long, long branches that spread out and were very thin. And then I took these and I dipped them in root tone and I put them in the ground, and in the spring all 8 of them came alive. So these make wonderful gifts if you want to go into farming. Goji berries are a wonderful item to grow, and they don't seem to be subject to any kind of pests. Also, you can grow your own potatoes. That's potato. You produce a lot of potatoes. I like potatoes, but they say that potatoes and eggplants are not advisable. But I eat eggplant too. So today the skies were totally blue the whole day. Not one hint of any aerosol spraying. And some people have advised me not to say anything about that subject because, oh, come on. It's got an autofocus function. It's close. Oh, if you get it, keep it. I'd like to get a camera that will follow something. And they've advised me not to address the subject of aerosol spraying. But I've decided that it would be wrong of me not to, because it's such a strange situation with planes flying over, going in odd directions. And some days they don't spray at all, like today. And some days the clouds, even on a summer day, a beautiful summer day, the whole cloud will become milky white. And what is this stuff? And I've got a NASA video on my website at jamesrobertdeal.org/white skies, white-skies. A spokesman for NASA is recorded admitting, yes, we do spraying. We've been doing it for a long time. We spray different things. And one of the things we spray is lithium. And then there's a PhD guy down in San Diego who's done the analysis of the rainwater up on Mount Shasta and says that it's largely aluminum and barium. And these are things you don't want to inhale, but they're useful because they hang in the air. They're so light. And the same way with lithium. And the NASA guy says that they're being sprayed in order to study the air currents up high. But isn't enough enough? The tonnage of the spraying is gigantic. And where could all this come from? You have to ask such global questions about issues like comprehensive transportation. Transportation should be comprehensive. It should get you all the way from where you are to all the way to where you are going. Why not? Why would we want a non-comprehensive transit system? We have a transportation system where you have to have a car if you're really serious about getting things done. Because riding the buses takes a terrible amount of time, waiting on corners, making transfers, and then you still don't get all the way to where you're going. So, it's a preposterous system. And the same way with the spraying. And there's a hypothesis about where the aluminum and the barium come from, and that is that they're just coal fly ash. Comes from coal-burning power plants. And it used to be the coal fly ash just went up the chimney, and then the EPA said, no, you've got to catch it in wet scrubbers. But then they said, well, what do we do with it? So they store it in lagoons, and sometimes eventually the lagoons break. They're all going to break. If not in 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, they're all going to break. And all those valleys with all those mines are all going to be polluted. But anyway, in Tennessee, one of them broke and poisoned the entire valley, ruined it forever. But recently, the EPA made an oddball ruling that coal fly ash can be used for pretty much any purpose. And so I think they're just turning toxic waste into a product that is being sprayed, that is toxic to our health, which increases the alkalinity of the soil, and thus is killing forests. So why have there been no hearings on it? Why is there no specific law that authorizes this? No regulations to regulate it? No hearings to discuss it? So I call it covert action in plain view. And if you think that I'm cockeyed for believing in such a thing, then why don't you look up for a change? Most people don't look up. Most people just look straight ahead at the bumper ahead of them in traffic. Well, let's take a look at the Olympic Mountains. Now this autofocus is probably going to focus on the fence and the stakes instead of the Olympics in the distance. So I guess I'll have to go back out to infinity. There. You can see them. They really look nice in the morning when the sun is shining on them so brightly. A peekaboo view. Well, I've rambled on. Today is July the 17th, 2018. And I hope you will vote for me. Go to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform or /radio and blast those links to all of your friends. Facebook them and join the radio station on Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. You can't call in, but you can send an email to james@jamesdeal.com. And why am I doing this? Is what people ask. And who are you to think that you have the right to run for office and propose all these radical changes? And that's because nobody else is doing it. There might be others who are more qualified, but they're not doing anything about it. And I think most people accept that there is some reasonableness to the way we arrange our society. And that is not a good assumption. Money, when cash flows get going, even if they're stupid, they have a life of their own. So that's why fluoridation is so tenacious and so hard to get out of the system. Because money gets organized and sets up corporations, and the dental fluoride is a huge money maker, and fluoride toothpaste is a huge money maker. And to stop fluoridating the drinking water would make people question the safety and effectiveness of the toothpaste and the dental products. But they're all a profitable fraud. You should have as little fluoride in your diet as possible, because your bones can only absorb so much. The topic really is, how is it that you've been defrauded? And why haven't you recognized that you've been defrauded? It's because of mass marketing. And if you read what Bernays writes about in his book Propaganda and Manufacturing Consent, is that people can be manipulated if you have somebody in a white coat that tells them something. If you have a doctor who says, I smoke Camels, people are going to believe it. And if you have a dentist who says, I advise Crest, brush your teeth with Crest, even though you're absorbing all this fluoride through your soft tissues of your mouth, and whatever you don't spit out, whatever sticks to your teeth, eventually you swallow it. So fluoride toothpaste is a fraud, and in some countries, that's the only kind of toothpaste that you can get. And the whole idea of toothpaste is unnecessary anyway. Baking soda is much better because it's alkaline, it's a real good cleaning agent, it sweetens your breath, doesn't taste really bad. It's good for cleaning your tongue. It's good for cleaning up your bad breath in the morning. You know, quit wasting your money on toothpaste. And in fact, you don't have to brush with anything. You can just brush with water and a toothbrush. Carry a toothbrush around in your pocket. And every time you eat something, brush your teeth. Just with water. That will preserve your teeth. But fluoride, according to the pro-fluoride people, only reduces tooth decay 25%. Now what about the other 75%? They offer no solution for that. And in Europe, without fluoridation, rates of dental decay have declined just as much. So, all these profitable frauds, open your mind, question them, like all the empty buses running around empty most of the time. Go to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform. If you want to help me, you can also click on the donate button. I love those $1 contributions. Up to 500 is allowed. And if you want to hire me as your broker or your co-broker, call 425-774-6611. I talk to people for no charge to determine whether I can help them or not. And if I can't, I often point them in the right direction. Like, maybe you should go into Chapter 13 bankruptcy. That's the thing I don't like about that lady on Channel 9. She talks about how to plan for retirement, and she never suggests bankruptcy. Sometimes people need to admit that they're bankrupt. Look forward to hearing from you by email with all of your questions, and please help. This is a one-man campaign. I'm going to keep doing this until I wake people up. That's my role. And the final reason why I run is that it helps my feeling of depression, which I feel about the state of the world, which is bad and getting worse. Now, I'm going to walk around and actually get in the picture. But the microphone doesn't work very good at this distance, so I must shout. And remember, the campaign theme song, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Profits must be goal number 2, after doing something good for the world.
your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you. And do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ, to play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alight, those nukes will burn for 1,000 years. We will live underground, come out only in hazmat. The sun in solar maximum will send us a mass ejection. Electronics will be toasted and we will return to the 1800s. Life is a tragedy, said an ancient sage. A tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. So I've thought, and I've thought about it often, about taking my own life. The thing that has kept me going is knowing I'll be dead soon enough. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you. And do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. I pray there is no hell. Unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses seldom rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. You say it's unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses rarely rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy.